Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Donovan's Daily Dose. I'm your favorite APUSH history teacher, and today we're going to go over some of the most important events from period 2 of the APUSH history curriculum. So we're going to go over some important must-know dates here. Now, this won't hit everything that you need to know for period 2, but it would give you a great baseline to start studying. So let's start with our first must-know date for my class, 1607. That is the Settlement of Jamestown. Jamestown is the first permanent British colony in North America. And much like the other European countries at this time, Great Britain is looking for access to new resources, possibly some gold. So much like France and Spain and Portugal, who have already colonized in the Western Hemisphere, Britain gets in on the game. And one of the things that you'll find that makes Jamestown so viable and so important to the establishment of the British colonies is the cultivation of tobacco. This highly addictive cash crop becomes the main staple crop of the Jamestown economy, and that leads us to understand our next must-know date, 1619. That is when the first slave arrives in the 13 British colonies, and they will arrive in Virginia. Now, the reason for enslaved labor in the New World is multifaceted. We know that indigenous populations are largely wiped out from European diseases due to the Columbian exchange. We know that cultivation of cash crops like tobacco are labor intensive. So thanks to the rise of the triangular trade or the transatlantic trade, we see the institution of slavery make its way to the British 13 colonies. Now, this will be the beginning of slavery and the institution of slavery in the 13 colonies. All 13 colonies will have the institution of slavery all the way up until the 1776 Declaration of Independence, in which we start to revolt and form our own country. Now, along with 1607 and 1619, another important date is 1620. That is the settlement of the Plymouth colony and the date in which the Mayflower Compact is signed. Now, the Plymouth colony represents something new for the colonists. This is going to be a religious safe haven for those pilgrims who are escaping religious persecution in England and in Holland. So this becomes a place, especially the New England region as a whole, becomes a place that is very centered around religion. We see this not only with the Pilgrims, we also see this with the Puritans of the New England region. People like John Winthrop describing his city upon a hill, in which he envisions an ideal Christian society in which biblical law is implemented and other things of that nature. So we have 1607 with Jamestown, 1619 with the first slave arriving in the 13 colonies, 1620 with the settlement of Plymouth and the Mayflower Compact. Another one you'd be good to know are the Navigation Acts. In the 1660s and 1650s as well, the British Parliament and the King are going to sign off on the Navigation Acts. Now, the Navigation Acts are largely to ensure that the colonies in North America, the 13 British colonies in North America, continue to trade exclusively with Great Britain. So this further enforces the mercantilist system, the economic system where European countries at this time believe resources are finite, and one of their big goals to accumulate massive wealth and to build a successful global empire is to control resources as much as possible. So the mercantilist system focuses on colonies exporting natural goods and raw resources and importing British manufactured goods. So the Navigation Acts is kind of the teeth behind this. They are enforcing the Navigation Acts, or they're enforcing the mercantilist system through the Navigation Acts. Another event that you should definitely know when it comes to the 1600s is the 1675 King Philip's War. So this represents the indigenous people, the Wampanoag tribe, fighting it back against European colonization, more specifically English colonization in the New England region. Based on percentage of population, this is going to be one of the deadliest wars in colonial American history. The English colonizers will win, and they will force indigenous populations to move west. And this sets the scene for a lot more contention overland, and we'll talk more about that when we get to Unit 3. Next up in 1680, we have the Pueblo Revolt. The Pueblo indigenous people of the American Southwest, specifically New Mexico, are going to fight back against Spanish colonial rule. The mission system and the forced, often violent conversion to Christianity causes indigenous people to rise up against Spanish control. And this will be initially successful. The Pueblo people are going to actually drive the Spanish out of New Mexico for about 12 years until they return and reconquer. But their policies after this point will change to prevent another uprising. And then last, but certainly not least, for the 1600s, we are looking at the 1692 Salem Witch Trials. Now, the context of this is Puritan New England. We know that biblical law is implemented when it comes to Puritan values in their legal system. And the accusations of witchcraft throw the colony into absolute chaos. Neighbors start turning on each other. There's in total 200 people accused of witchcraft. 20 people will be executed. And in this, we really find where Puritan ideology and the law overlaps. We find that in a system of judiciary where people are kind of assumed guilty until they prove their innocence, causes the onus or the burden of proof to be on the individuals themselves. So we learn a lot from this. American in our legal system today has innocent until proven guilty instead of guilty until proven innocent, in part because of what happened during the Salem Witch Trials. So those are the must-know dates of period 2 for the 1600s. Make sure you like and subscribe, and let me know what other videos you would like to make next. Besides that, have an amazing rest of your day, guys and girls.